Assalamu alaikum, guys. Today was a very interesting Jum'ah, and I just wanted to share my reflections with you guys. It started off completely normal. We were just going to the masjid, and we figure out, like, on our way to the masjid that they're doing a janazah afterwards. And the burial site is 15 minutes away from the masjid, so me and the boys decided, okay, let's go to Jum'ah, and then we'll go to the janazah afterwards. We had no idea who it was. They weren't related to us or anything. But it's important if you can to go to these janazahs, right? To the burials. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us to remember death often, for it is the destroyer of all pleasures, right? And going and seeing the burial site and seeing people entering the next life, it really puts this world into perspective. So we thought, why not? Jum'ah was over, and we head over there. And subhanAllah, we're waiting for the body. We got there a little early. We're waiting for them to bring the body. And we spot it, and the body was small. Like, usually if it's an adult, they'll carry it on a stretcher. The guy had her in his hands, like this. And so I was like, that's weird. I thought it was going to be like an adult. I checked the email that they sent earlier, and it was a 2.5-year-old girl. It was a 2.5-year-old girl that died from cancer. SubhanAllah. And it hit us all. Like, it really affected us, subhanAllah, because you think that death has an age. You think it has a number. But seeing those things makes you realize that that death can come to you at any moment. Wallah, it can come to you at any moment. We kind of shrug it off and we're like, yeah, okay, but realistically I got till I'm 60, till I'm 70. Wallah, you have no idea. You think you're safe, in whatever Western country you're living in, and in your safe neighborhood with your family and your roof above your head. Death can come to you at any moment, whether you're 70, whether you're 17, whether you're 2.5 years old. And so we go, and the grave's already been dug, and the sheikh comes and he gets into the grave and he's putting her in the grave. They start the whole burial process. They put the pillars, and then they start putting dirt over the grave, and they start to bury her. And the whole time that they're burying her, I'm thinking, subhanAllah, Allah really took her, decided to take her soul when she was still pure. She's 2.5 years old. She doesn't have any sins. She's still a baby. Allah decided to take her when she's still pure into His eternal Jannah. And I felt for the parents. Right when I figured out that it was a child, I immediately felt for the parents, because imagine losing your 2.5-year-old daughter, and to cancer, like the trials and hardships that they had to go through that whole time to eventually get to that point to lose their daughter. And subhanAllah, that actually I didn't know who the dad was at first. I was trying to figure out who the dad was, and there was one person that people I saw kept making salam to, right? And hugging and whatnot. So I was like, okay, that's probably the dad. But this guy, subhanAllah, was smiling the entire time. He was happy. So I'm like, okay, that obviously can't be the dad, right? Why would you be happy to lose your 2-year-old daughter? After we're done burying her, the imam or the sheikh starts to give a little khutbah, a reminder about death. And he says that we should, he basically points out the dad. And it was the person that was smiling the whole time. I think to myself, subhanAllah, this guy he's joyful. Wallah, he was happy. And it almost sounds crazy at first, but that's true iman. Like, realizing the situation that you're in and the blessing that Allah has given you. Allah decided to take your child when she was still pure, when she had no sins. And may Allah enter her into Jannatul Firdaus. And if He is patient through that trial, inshallah, He'll reunite with her in Jannah. And I feel like, subhanAllah, he understood that. And from that understanding, he couldn't be sad. I go and make salam to him afterwards. Obviously, I hug him. I say, Al-Baqa'u lillah, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And he says, brother, don't, subhanAllah, he said, don't worry about her. Worry about me. Worry about us. He was trying to say that, she died when she was pure. She had no sins. Don't worry about her. And I feel like that fact, subhanAllah, was what really kept him strong. You know, he was like worried about, oh, we're the ones that have to, you know, stay patient and endure this hardship. But subhanAllah, the iman that this guy had, and the just, he had, everything was in perspective for him. Everything was in perspective. He understood the test that Allah was putting him through, and that kept him patient. And one thing that really struck me, when the Imam was giving his khatara, he mentioned the ayah, إِنَّ اللَّهَ اشْتَرَى مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ وَأَنفُسَهُمْ بِأَنَّ لَهُمُ الْجَنَّةِ. Indeed, Allah has bought the believers' souls and their money in return for Jannah. I want you to think about that for a second. Wallahi, I had to take a step back, because I've never heard that ayah before until that day. Allah has bought from the believers their money and their souls, their entire life, their sacrifice, in return for Jannah. Like, Jannah is not cheap. Sometimes we think, you know, I pray my 5 prayers, you know, I fast during Ramadan, I'm set. Jannah is Jannah. Jannah is Jannah. Why would you think that comes that easily? Allah is saying that those who really deserve Jannah are the ones who literally live a life for the sake of Allah. Everything you do, the sacrifices that you make, your whole life is the purpose around it is Allah. That is your goal in life, to please Allah and to live a life that Allah would be pleased at. That when you die, when we're buried in that same grave that we're all going to be in, and you go to Allah on the Day of Judgment with your deeds, and you go to Him with your record, Allah is going to be pleased with you. That's going to be a day, inshallah, that you start to rejoice in. Because you've spent all these years, you spent your entire life for the sake of Allah. Whatever it may be. Wallahi, whatever it may be. It could be fighting for the cause of Allah. It could be teaching others. It could be taking care of your family, taking care of your mother and your father. Anything that you do, your whole life is lived for the sake of Allah. And in return, بِأَنَّ لَهُمُ الْجَنَّةِ. But Jannah is expensive. Jannah is expensive. We need to realize this. We think that from the deeds that we do, we've earned Jannah. Like, I deserve Jannah. Which is crazy, because if you look at the Sahabas of the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they did way more than all of us. They did way more than all of us. But they thought they were nothing. They thought they were not deserving of anything. We do the least, and then we think we deserve Jannah. We have it backwards, wallahi. If you have a graveyard or a cemetery near you, go and visit it. Go and visit it often. It's actually sunnah to go on Jum'ah and visit the graveyard, because it puts things into perspective. It gives you something right in your face, and you realize, this is where I'm going to be. That it is a guarantee from Allah. Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. Every single soul will taste death. No one is escaping from that grave. None of us are going to escape from that grave. We are going to be 6 feet underground. Whether it's tomorrow, whether it's in a year, whether it's in 20 years, we're all going to be down there, and we're going to be held accountable for what we do right now. You need to go and visit the grave to give yourself this perspective, and to remind yourself of why we're even here in the first place. Really just try to keep things in perspective. I don't know how to end this video. Like, what are we even, all these stupid arguments that we get into, or all these problems that we think we have, you know. And then this family was dealing with their 2.5-year-old daughter having cancer, and no one knew. Imagine if you would have told them the troubles that you were having, they would have swapped lives with you in an instant. But we don't realize this, because we get so just engulfed in our own problems and struggles that we don't realize the bigger picture. Allah tests those whom He loves. The people that were tested the most, that had the most hardships, are not the people who commit zina, are not the people who deal with interest. They're the prophets. They are the closest to Allah. Those are the people that have the hardest lives. And that should really tell you something. That should tell you something about the struggle that you're going through right now. It is a test from Allah, because He loves you. And you stay patient with that test for however long Allah has decreed for it to be there. And in return, inshallah, you will get an eternity of bliss and happiness and pain-free. Keep everything in perspective. Realize why we're here. Realize the short time that we are here in. All right, guys. we'll just end it there. Assalamu alaikum.